Some announcements. June 24th, there's a sitting at Green Gulch that I'm leading, the Everyday Zen sitting. If you missed Tassajara, or if you got to Tassajara, or if you want to have an opportunity to sit, I was sitting here kind of in my body, remembering some of the sounds of the drums and the gongs at Tassajara. Green Gulch is a wonderful place to sit. You have to sign up through the Everyday Zen website, and I think there are scholarships available, and you could say that you sit with me, that if finances were an issue. And I think some of the people from Lucy's Harmony Sangha at Tassajara are going to come, so it'll be a chance to see each other again. Thank you to Erica and to all of you who were being the home Sangha while we were the away Sangha at the home of Tassajara, and it's all a dream anyway. What actually is this life and what are we doing? But it does seem to be kind of a miraculous, wonderful opportunity to practice together wherever we are. I wanted to, before I forget, because I know especially Chelsea and your dad, is the well-being, our well-being list was chanted in the Tassajara Zendo as part of the well-being ceremony, so everyone's name, it was really beautiful to hear these names that we chant here every week being chanted by the Kokyo and the Tassajara Zendo. Everyone was deeply included. So this is the end of our, there is no end. Are you the only one hearing static? Are others hearing static? You are hearing static? Anything we can do?
Is it a fan?
No.
No, I don't see the little speaker over
It's right here.
Oh, it's hidden, it's over there.
The static went away,
Oh, it went away? Great, okay.
I switched
at
it.
least for me.
Is it better for everybody else? Cool, okay,
Okay.
great. That was simple. So we're today and on Thursday, we're coming to the end of our engaged Buddhism focus. And I found all these things I want to read, so you may not get to talk today. We'll see. Just found all these great things, but maybe they don't need to be said. We'll see what happens. I wanted to start with when you go down to Tassajara, the people who went to Tassajara and people who of our sangha and other sanghas and people who are practicing there. You're given Tassajara Zen Mountain Center pure standards, guidelines of conduct for summer Zen training, and they're called the Shinji. They're monastic rules, and Dogen has a book about this thick of monastic rules, which of course aren't rules because they're rules because you should do rules. It's to create harmony in the sangha. I was saying to somebody that when I was at Tassajara, we did not begin services by chanting the verse of repentance, all my ancient twisted karma, and doing 9 vows. I'm guessing they started doing it because they realized that when you're down at Tassajara and people are getting tired and stressed, things happen. And so they really built and created a container of how are we all going to get along and help each other, knowing that things are going to happen, which to me is, you could say engaged Buddhism is, and it is. Let's address a socioeconomic inequality. Let's address racism. Let's address gender inequality and greed and hate and delusion in the world. And of course, it's always in our own minds and hearts. So going to Tassajara, sitting at Green Gulch, being here is engaged Buddhism. And then we see how we respond to the world. So I thought I would start with, oh, that was the other announcement. There's precepts tonight. Everybody's always welcome afterwards from 6:45 to 7:45. But the precepts are engaged, the Bodhisattva precepts are engaged Buddhism. If we all followed the precepts, and if we went and when we make mistakes, we repent and we say we're sorry and we find some way to make amends, that would take care of everything in the world. I mean, really, think about it. So I thought I would start with that. It says here, since the birth of Zen training in China over 1,000 years ago, it has been common practice for each monastery to compose, quote, pure standards that support the residents to live with and each other in mutual respect, peace, and harmony. This way of life is the body and mind of Zen training and practice. Please follow these guidelines completely and wholeheartedly. And then there's a whole lot of different particulars here about eating and bowing and if we're going to the bathroom and not, but covers everything. But I thought I would just the precepts. These guidelines are grounded in the 10 major Bodhisattva precepts of the Soto Zen school. Not killing. We all got tested, little bugs. Bugs. Not taking what is not given. Not misusing sexuality. Not lying. Not intoxicating mind or body of self or others. Not speaking of others' faults. Not praising self and belittling others. Not being possessive of anything. Not indulging in anger. I think that's a really, it's that language, anger arises. There's anger. It doesn't say get over yourself. It doesn't say. It acknowledges anger arises, what you do with it, not indulging in anger. And not disparaging the Buddha, Dharma, or Sangha, the awakened one, the teachings, and the community. And then there's a quote at the end that I sent out in the newsletter a week ago that's from Dogen. The assembly of practitioners in the hall should blend like milk and water to support the activity of the way. Although now for some period you are guest and host, later you will be Buddha ancestors equally throughout time. Now you are guest and host. Now there's you and now there's me. We are taking care of each other as this and that. And you are, and the whole world is Buddha ancestors equally throughout time. We are all waking up to that which we already are. Therefore, you should not, wherever you are, whatever is happening, forget the feeling of gratitude. Practice gratitude. It is rare to meet one another and to practice what is rare to practice. It's a miracle. It is nothing short of a miracle that we have met each other, that we practice together. It was so beautiful being down in the valley, and there were 2 other sanghas, and to realize that they all met each other and they practice together, and they do it similarly and differently. And then we all sat at different tables and we talked to each other. And it's just the gratitude of how did this happen? We find each other. And we're practicing together. It is rare to meet one another and to practice what is rare to practice. This is called the Buddha and mind of Buddha Dharma. The pure standards support the residents to live with each other in mutual respect, peace, and harmony. The Bodhisattva precepts teach us to live in the world with each other and are teaching the world to wake up and live in peace, respect, and harmony. if that's not engaged Buddhism, then I don't know what it is that we're doing. So then I wanted to share Thich Nhat Hanh, Zen and the Art of Saving the Planet. It's really a lovely book, and I highly recommend it. Some people say that actually the online course, I talked to someone who said they were doing the online course that Thich Nhat Hanh's disciples are teaching, and along with videos of him. And they say it's a really good course. I think you might be able to do it in your own time. I'm not sure. But people also really recommend the book, and the parts of it that I've looked at. I would say the same thing. I'm doing what I've done with many of the resources I've been bringing. I went to the last chapter. Begins with be alive and be the miracle. Be alive and be the miracle. The epilogue says, we have more than enough bodhisattvas. It's us, folks. The Lotus Sutra, we're going to study the Lotus Sutra in the practice period that's coming here. The Lotus Sutra tells a story about a bodhisattva whose name is Gadgadasvara. Never said it out loud. Gadgadasvara, which means wonderful sound. He's a musician and composer and serves the world with his music. Legend has it that Gadgadasvara is a bodhisattva from another planet. From time to time, it's what I love about the Lotus Sutras, whatever you think is going on, there's so much more going on than you can even begin to imagine. And Thich Nhat Hanh validates this. You'll see, I like this. From time to time, while sitting with his Sangha, the Buddha Shakyamuni Buddha would use his beam of mindfulness to reach out into the cosmos and get in touch with different worlds. So I'm sitting here because I'm the one in the seat and my little beam starts walking and I can illuminate the roses. I mean, you don't have to have, I mean, there's just realms everywhere. We can all do this, but the Shakyamuni Buddha, a lot of the things in the sutras, there's always these beams of light. In this way, Buddhas and bodhisattvas and other planets came to be aware that on this tiny planet Earth, there was a Buddha teaching. That's how the cosmos and all the different realms, and probably all the little bugs and the roses and the little microorganisms or whatever is like, oh, there's somebody there trying to wake up with all beings. Must make everybody really happy. When Bodhisattva Wonderful Sound got a beam of light from Shakyamuni, this is great, he looked and saw planet Earth with the Buddha and his assembly on Vulture Peak, or maybe could look down and see us here, or you there, or all of us at Tassajara or Green Gulch. And he wanted to visit. It's like he could beam in on, there's good vibes here. And many other bodhisattvas joined him. In advance of their arrival, they produced thousands of huge, beautiful lotus buds all around Vulture Peak. Everyone wondered why these beautiful lotuses suddenly appeared. And Shakyamuni Buddha said, well, we have some visitors. And he told them about Bodhisattva Wonderful Sound. Then Bodhisattva Gadgadasvara and his friends manifested themselves at Vulture Peak. See, I think when we do the Jukai ceremony, and we call on all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, we name them and call them, they actually come. You just have to have the eyes to be able to see them. And I would imagine it's not out of the question too that when we gather, or when any Sangha gathers, or when anyone gathers with good heart and intention, the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas come because they just like, oh, there's something good happening here. It makes everybody happy. It's called engaged Buddhism. They're engaged with us and we're engaged with them. So they came and they paid their respects to the Buddha and offered the greetings of the Buddha to their land. And they noticed that our planet is small and yet still has a lot of suffering. They could see Shakyamuni Buddha working hard to help relieve the suffering, and many of them volunteered to stay and help. We got some problems. You want us to stay? We're Buddhas, we're Bodhisattvas. We really like to help out. Engage Buddhism, we're into it. They were very kind. But Shakyamuni Buddha said, "Thank you for your goodwill, but we do have enough bodhisattvas here to take care of ourselves." And at that moment, he looked deeply into the earth, and suddenly many wondrous bodhisattvas, hundreds and thousands of them, sprang up from the earth, and everyone was amazed. You, me, Lucy's Harmony Sangha, Misha's Sangha, the people at Tassajara, past, present, and future, little bodhisattvas popping up every place. Shakyamuni was helping everyone see the ultimate dimension. In the ultimate dimension, the lifespan of a Buddha is limitless, and your lifespan is also limitless. This image in the Lotus Sutra is an artful device to help us touch the ultimate dimension, to see ourselves in the ultimate dimension, which is the dimension of the formless, of timelessness, of beyond space and time, of interconnection, of love, to see the Buddha, our teacher, in the ultimate dimension, and to realize that we do have enough children of the earth to take care of the earth. And then he says, don't be too sure that on earth there are only children of the earth. There may be living beings from other planets. I always knew it. Meteorites may have brought ancient life with them, and so on. On Earth, there may be life that is not exactly born from the earth, but arrived from meteorites and naturalized. This is so much more vast and mysterious than we can imagine. And it's all engaged and engaging. The Lotus Sutra gives a very clear impression that we are a small planet and that the Buddha is one of the planet's children. He wants to take care of the planet and has many disciples ready to hold the earth tenderly in their arms and take care of the planet. There is no need to fear that we don't have enough people to take care of our home, planet Earth. We know how to do it. Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva is a child of the earth, as is Jesus, and proves that mankind, humankind, is quite capable of embracing the earth's suffering and preserving the beauty and wonders of the planet. We are all children of the earth, and we should take care of each other. We should take care of our environment, and with community and togetherness, this is possible. That's the end of the book. We are all children of the earth, and we should take care of each other. We should take care of our environment. And with community and togetherness, this is possible. We have everything we need. We have everything we need. And we're going to keep helping each other over and over to come back in the midst of despair, in the midst of mistakes, in the midst of lunacy. Take a breath, open our eyes and our hearts, and engage with what's right in front of us. And we'll know what to do next. Together. Engage Buddhism. So now, I want to read you something that I think is miraculous. My good friend Tigan Dan Layton, who's a Bodhisattva Zen Center lineage, teaches in Chicago, is really socially active. Every now and then he sends out emails to encourage all of us. And he sent this one out. It came from Michael Moore. But what it is is this was a few days ago. Today's June 13th. This is from June 10th, 1963. He says, before the day ends, I want to share with you an incredible and moving historic moment that took place 60 years ago today on June 10th, 1963. President John F. Kennedy, the President of the United States, John F. Kennedy, at least we are despairing or wondering what this word means, was asked to give the commencement address at the American University in Washington, D.C., happening just 5 months before his assassination. He bravely called for an end to war, the establishment of a permanent peace, and the abolition of nuclear weapons. He asked people not to hate or fear the Russian Soviet people, that they were a people of virtue who had sacrificed over 12 million of their citizens to defeat Hitler, and that we should never forget that. This was in the middle of the Cold War. Let's remember that. He said, we share the same planet. We breathe the same air. And he went on to say that we must be at peace with each other. If this isn't an embodied bodhisattva on this planet in our lifetime, speaking that which we seem to have forgotten, but which hasn't gone away and will always appear, because bodhisattvas will always pop up out of the earth and we need to remember it. He went on to say that we must be at peace with each other and that the billions we spend on weapons of war should be spent on eliminating poverty, educating our children, and creating a clean environment, the President of the United States said. And here at home, there can be no peace if we live in a nation of inequality. I'm guessing some Americans clearly saw his thinking in a not so positive way. Just 3 years after Eisenhower's equally brave warning about our dangerous industrial military complex that was built to increase profits for the few who built and sold weapons and continually pushed us into war. So Michael Moore says that when he read this or was listening to it, he decided to send it to President Biden and his granddaughters. We need him to be in the spiritual and political soul space President Kennedy was in 60 years ago today. The Russians and the Ukrainians of the Soviet Union were our allies. World War II would have probably been lost without them. The Russian people and the Ukrainian people are our friends. The madness must end. Peace can be achieved. If we lose our belief in that, then, as it was said 60 years ago on this day, ultimately all will be lost. And he says, please read the president's words. So I'm going to read you a little bit more of them. But I also want to say before I go on, one of the wonderful things for me about being a Tassajara is Lucy. I can't remember her last name. Her origin is China. She was born in China. And she gave a talk while we were there and talked about going home to China and talked about going home to her family and her friends and the love and the devotion and the temples and the kindness and then I think we need to keep remembering, Engaged Buddhism, keep remembering they're not our enemies. How are we going to do this? How are we not going to make each other our enemies? How are we going to do this? So here is some of President Kennedy's encouragements. He says, I have chosen this time and place to discuss a topic on which ignorance too often abounds and the truth is too rarely perceived. Yet it is the most important topic on earth, world peace. What kind of peace do I mean? What kind of peace do we seek? Not a pax Americana enforced on the world by American weapons of war. Not the peace of the grave. I am talking about genuine peace, the kind of peace that makes life on earth worth living, the kind that enables citizens and nations to grow and to hope and to build a better life for their children, not merely peace for Americans, but peace for all men and women, not merely peace in our time, but peace for all time. The American president said this in his speech and meant it. I speak of peace because of the new face of war. Total war makes no sense in an age when great powers can maintain large and relatively invulnerable nuclear forces and refuse to surrender without resort to those forces. It makes no sense in an age when a singular nuclear weapon contains almost 10 times the explosive force delivered by all the Allied air forces in the Second World War. It makes no sense in an age when the deadly poisons produced by a nuclear exchange could be carried by wind and water and soil and sea to the far corners of the globe and to generations yet unborn. Let us examine our attitude toward peace itself. Too many of us think it is impossible. Too many of us think it is impossible. Too many think it unreal. But that is a dangerous, defeatist belief. It leads to the conclusion that war is inevitable, that humankind is doomed, and that we are gripped by forces we cannot control. You feel a little bodhisattva popping up out of the earth, popping up out of our own hearts. Like, oh, somebody's saying it. We need not accept that view. Our problems are self-imposed. Therefore, they can be solved by us. And humankind can be exactly as we want it to be. No problem of human destiny is beyond human beings. Our reason and spirit have often solved the seemingly unsolvable, and we believe we can do it again. Let us focus instead on a more practical, more attainable peace, based not on a sudden revolution in human nature, but on a gradual evolution in human institutions, on a series of concrete actions and effective agreements which are in the interest of all concerned. There is no single, simple key to this peace, no grand or magic formula to be adopted by one or two powers. Genuine peace must be the product of many nations, the sum of many acts. It must be a dynamic, not static, changing to meet the challenge of each new generation, for peace is a process, a way of solving problems. With such a peace, there will still be quarrels. There will still be quarrels. This isn't diluted, engaged Buddhism. This isn't diluted, engaged, let's have peace in the world. There will still be quarrels and conflicting interests, as there are within families and nations and sanghas. World peace, like community peace, does not require that each person love their neighbor. It requires only that they live together in mutual tolerance, submitting their disputes to a just and peaceful settlement. And history teaches us that enmities between nations as between individuals do not last forever. However fixed our likes and dislikes may seem, the tide of time and events will often bring surprising changes in the relations between nations and neighbors. So let us persevere, Bodhisattvas. Peace need not be impracticable, and war need not be inevitable. By defining our goal more clearly, by making it seem more manageable and less remote, we can help all peoples to see it, to draw hope from it, and to move irresistibly toward it. care about the Soviet Union. They've suffered. I'm just reading you little parts of it here. Talks about Russia, talks about nuclear war, talks about nuclear weapons, talks about Geneva and the UN. And then he says, finally, my fellow Americans, let us examine our attitude toward peace and freedom here at home. The quality and spirit of our own society must justify and support our efforts abroad. We must show it in the dedication of our own lives. Wherever we are, we must all in our daily lives live up to the age-old faith that peace and freedom walk together. In too many of our cities today, the peace is not secure because the freedom is incomplete. We are not hopeless before that task or hopeless of its success of building a world of peace. Confident and unafraid, we labor on, not toward a strategy of annihilation, but toward a strategy of peace. Then Michael Moore is a donor. Kennedy was assassinated. We went into Vietnam. Thousands were killed. We've done Iraq. Who knows what we're going or might perpetrate again. A bodhisattva. Nhat Hanh says, we have more than enough bodhisattvas. Not killing, not taking what is not given, not misusing sexuality, not lying, not intoxicating mind or body of self or others, not speaking of others' faults, not praising self and belittling others, not being possessive of anything, not indulging in anger, not disparaging the Buddha, Dharma, or Sangha, awakening and the teachings and the community and the Sangha. So we're not going to be focusing overtly on engaged Buddhism, but everything we do is engaged Buddhism. Everything depends on each one of us popping up as bodhisattvas out of the earth over and over and over again. And the amazing thing is that it's joyful. And it's sad, and sometimes it's hard. But ultimately, what else are we going to do with this precious life? And when a bug lands on you and you whack it, you take a breath, and you realize what you just did. And this someone reminded me, you know, the Dalai Lama, I guess, apparently said is you give it three chances and then. but when you do it with some awareness, and when you and when I pulled the Thich out of me, I put it on my altar. You know, it's like what's the state of mind with which we are attending to and caring for ourselves and each other. So maybe there's a bunch of us. Why don't we just, what you got to say, Bodhisattvas? Anybody